So the Galactic Starcruiser flopped. Many claim it's because of the price tag, but is that really the case? Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Samantha Souza, and today we're talking about the Galactic Starcruiser and its, many may say, predictable closing. I said a year ago that I didn't see Starcruiser being sustainable long-term for Disney, and while you might think, if you know me at all, that this might be a moment that I would be saying, hey, I told you so, I'm definitely not feeling that way. My heart is breaking for the cast members. I have friends who are cast members of Starcruiser, and I know how much this project has meant to them and how much it's meant to the many guests who had truly life-changing experiences going to the Galactic Starcruiser. All that being said, what I want to talk about in this video is where Disney went wrong and what I think that they can do with the Starcruiser moving forward. Purely from a business standpoint, there were so many missed opportunities that I think Disney missed out on with something as innovative as the Starcruiser. First of all, I want to applaud Disney for taking such a monumental, first of its kind step forward in terms of immersion. It is unlike anything that's out there in the entertainment space, and for that I want to applaud them, and I'm hoping that the lack of success from Starcruiser is not going to deter them from doing similar ventures with similar gusto in the future. I think that they can learn from this experience and do something different moving forward. Conversely, their competitor Universal, I see, has a lot of potential to learn from what Starcruiser kind of missed the mark on, and they can profit from it substantially, perhaps with a Harry Potter immersive experience I think would do insanely well, but more on that later. The first red flag was that this was sort of going around as the Disney Star Wars Hotel, and it was sort of a bummer because this was basically everything that we were promised with Galaxy's Edge and we didn't get. Galaxy's Edge, the whole bright suns and To the Spire and all this deep-rooted immersion and the cast members talking to you as if you're really off planet. This was what Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be, but instead they chose to monetize it and put it into the Galactic Starcruiser. No surprise, a Chapek idea. People got confused and they heard it was the Star Wars hotel because then it was so expensive, and people didn't understand that it really wasn't a hotel. It was literally an immersive experience that lasts over 2 days. So let's cut right to the chase. Most people think that the Starcruiser failed because it was too expensive. Yes, it was very cost prohibitive for most people. I think that when it comes to Star Wars, Disney immersive experiences, there was a market for people who are willing to pay that $5,000, $6,000 price tag. But I think mistake number one, biggest mistake, was not pricing. It was choosing to set this exclusively in the newest trilogy timeline. It is not a secret that the majority of long-term Star Wars fans are not fans of the new trilogy. They don't identify with Rey. Kylo Ren is not their villain of choice. When people heard about Galaxy's Edge in a Star Wars land, they thought they were going to get to interact with C-3PO and Darth Vader, maybe Han Solo, but we didn't get that. They were so married to this new trilogy timeline, and it made a lot of people frustrated. And if you think about who the people are that have an extra $5 to $6 grand to spend on a 2-day experience, we're talking about likely your late millennial / Gen X person who doesn't identify with Rey and Kylo Ren as deeply as they do with that original trilogy. And of course the prequels are all part of that timeline as well. There's a faction, me included, that pretends that the new trilogy ends after episode 7 because the movies went off the rails. It was very, forget it, we're not gonna go into all that, that's a whole separate video. So mistake number one, wrong timeline. I think something that could have saved Starcruiser, that would have been a little bit more work up front, but could have been massively impactful to the amount of people who are willing to not only embark on the experience, but do it repeatedly. My idea would have been 3 different timelines or 3 different offerings altogether. One timeline set in original trilogy, Darth Vader, Han Solo, Luke, Leia. Makes sense to keep the same vessel because technically, according to canon, the Galactic Starcruiser, the Halcyon, was the honeymoon spot for Han and Leia. So, could work. Then you can also do the Rey and Kylo Ren stuff, and it would be fine. A lot of your peripheral characters could theoretically be the same, even though that wouldn't necessarily make sense for a repeat visitor. It's still something that they could kind of copy and paste. You would still have some of those iconic characters in and around the ship on various voyages, so that you can kind of maybe do a repeat experience and or choose the one that you feel like you identify with the most. And then for the third option, there could theoretically be a world where it was just a hotel. And so you didn't have to pay the actors the amount of time for an entire week's worth of voyages. So it would be cost effective on that end. That is an aspect that I feel like most people are not understanding when it comes to the price point of the Galactic Starcruiser. These actors are Actors Equity Association actors. They need to be paid appropriately for the amount of man hours and the amount of effort that goes into a full-scale 48-hour play, basically. That is not cheap. Florida rules in Disney World mean that these people need to be equity actors. And so there are lots of stipulations when it comes to how they need to be paid to produce this quality entertainment that Disneyland doesn't have to abide by. They have AGVA, which is a different union altogether. So in order to get this level of thematic experience, I have friends who work on Halcyon who have literally written monologues for guests, knowing that they're gonna run into them the next day. It was so much work, and they needed to be compensated, and even then, in my opinion, they were not compensated enough. But that is an expensive endeavor. So another thing that they could have done, option number 2, is do the half sort of regular hotel, half immersive experience weekend to sort of offset the cost of paying the actors in that way. Obviously, mistake number 3 is the price point. When you make something so expensive, I think Disney was really banking on the fact that the Star Wars fandom is so rabid that they thought that people would pay anything. And I think they wanted to curb the amount of people, because I want to remind you, there were only 100 rooms available on the Halcyon. That's not a lot. The average hotel room in Disney has way more hotel rooms than that, exponentially more. So they had to take that into account, as well as just like making sure that they could price people out. Honestly, I think that's what they wanted at first, until they realized that everybody who wanted to go probably had, and they saved up so much money, and there wasn't, for the majority of people, an opportunity to do this another time. So the rebookability factor went down quite a bit. So this whole idea of rebookability plays into account on all aspects, right? And that brings me to my point number, what, 3, 4, I don't know. When Disney decided to invite all of these media people to the first voyage, they literally put the entire story online, and there were spoilers. And yes, you could, in theory, embark on different, paths. Maybe you choose the dark side one time, maybe you choose, something else, and then you could get to the ending in a different way. But at the end of the day, the Gaia show is always the same. The final big battle is always the same. And that might not be an issue for the rabid diehards who really prioritize that first 2/3 of the storyline. But for the majority of people, it feels like you're paying $6,000 to watch a movie that you've already seen. So I feel like their mistake on Disney's part was, I would have said,
look, you are allowed to show X, Y, and Z, or maybe you can show day 1 and part of day 2, but you are not allowed to show the end. You can talk about it, but don't show it at length.
Point blank rule, at least for media. I mean, you can't prevent people from filming on their phone or what have you. Maybe you could take the precautions to do that. I mean, they do that on a Disney cruise, no filming, no nothing on their, Broadway style shows on cruise ships. So why not on the Halcyon? I don't know where you could draw the line with that. But I feel like for a lot of people who really were struggling with that price point, at the end of the day, once you kind of see it all 100% online, it really takes that incentive of saving all that money and going away. And speaking of price point, for that amount of money, you could buy a cruise for 5 to 7 days on a Disney cruise and get that giant experience instead of just 2 days on the Halcyon. Now, granted, it's not the immersion, but a lot of people would choose to spend their money differently. That's just the reality of the situation. And the last thing, .56, I don't even know at this point. The last thing that I think that Disney really missed the mark on. So Disney made a lot of assumptions about their target audience for the Halcyon Starcruiser. And I think that adding up, it really limited who their potential customer was. Because let's think about it. If you are somebody entertaining going on the Halcyon, you have to qualify for a lot of different things. One, you have to have enough money to go in the first place. Two, you have to be an insane Star Wars fan to choose to allocate said funds to that short of amount of time. But most importantly, number three, you have to like said trilogy that they are doing a timeline on. And four, you have to like immersive experiences. There are a ton of people who like being in the world of Avengers Campus or like walking around Galaxy's Edge. But when you force them to say Bright Suns or To the Spire, they're like, what? I just wanted to know where the bathroom is. You have to bank on not only these first three things happening, but also that they like immersion. Not every single person who likes Disney theme parks or Star Wars for that matter likes LARPing. Not everybody wants to do a live action role play. That's really cool for a very small amount of people. There are people who are too shy for that. There are people out there where that feels like work to them. That's not a vacation experience to them. So you're looking for somebody who A, has the budget, B, feels like this experience is worth it in the first place, C, likes the timeline in which this is set in the Star Wars universe, and four, D, caca, and D, likes role play and being in that world. So let's go into what can they do with the Starcruiser. I mean, the obvious choice is they could hold on to it and just turn it into a regular hotel, but that comes with some caveats. There's no pool, there's no gym. They would have to make a lot of changes, which would cost money. And the reality is there's only 100 hotel rooms. So that'd be very expensive for a very low return on investment. It would have to be priced exponentially more than even the most expensive deluxe resorts. And I think people would still pay for that because then they could still have the immersion to the level that they're comfortable with, but then still be able to go to Magic Kingdom or be able to go to the different parks and not feel like they're trapped in this little small bubble for a short amount of time. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think that Disney's likely to make that investment? Probably not, which then begs the question, so then what? I'm not sure exactly what the timeline on this, but it does beg the question of the producers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, The Producers is a popular Mel Brooks movie that turned into a popular Mel Brooks musical about a group of Broadway producers who purposefully put on the worst musical on Broadway so that they could claim it as a failure and then recoup that money from a tax perspective. And I'm not saying that this was purposefully done. I think Disney had massive hopes for the Starcruiser. But I think if they, within the first year, can claim that it was a failure, they might be able to reclaim some of the investment they made on that financial mishap if it's within the year. And we're coming upon that time now. Granted, there are going to be voyages through September, so I'm not sure what the timeline is in order to make that effectual, but that could play a part too. So if they ever did return it into a hotel, I think that would negate that, but listen, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not sure about how all that works, but that did kind of come to mind for me. At the end of the day, like I said, I really hope that this doesn't prevent Disney from doing things like this in the future. I hope it just becomes a learning opportunity. And again, my heart goes out to those cast members who I know put their heart and soul into this, and I know that there are so many of you, more of you than those who feel angered by this, who loved their experience on the Starcruiser and wish that you could go again and again and again. Every single person I know who's been said it was absolutely incredible. So I want to applaud creative and cast for the experiences that you gave people that will last a lifetime. And I know firsthand that there were experiences that you had even as a team member of the Halcyon that will last a lifetime for you. So just know that this not being an incredible success for Disney is no failure on your part. It was purely business because as far as I know, the creative standpoint of this was absolutely immaculate. What it was that Disney tried to do, they did do that. I just think that what they were trying to do wasn't for everyone. So that does it for this analysis of Disney's closing of the Halcyon. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you're not already following me on Instagram or TikTok, I would be pretty surprised because most of you probably came over from there, but hey, you never know. Head over there, let's connect, and I would love to chat about this with you in my comment sections.
Editing Samantha here. I don't know what happened. I guess my outro footage just got lost somehow in editing. So I will just say thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below and go follow me on my other social pages if you're not already. And special shout out to my Patreon members, the Sam Fam, who will be shouted out right here, and a special verbal shout out to special VIP elite Patreon member Sam. Thank you so much for supporting me and the channel and all of my endeavors on social, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.